you for joining us today for today's session, the TCO of Magento Commerce. I'm Ben Chafetz, CEO of One-to-One eCommerce, and also joining me today is Max from Norscot. He's a client of One-to-Ones that used to be on Suite Commerce and has moved to Magento, and he'll talk to you about his experience with Magento and what his TCO was, what his total cost of ownership was. Additionally, we also have Tink Taylor from dotdigital, and that's a big treat for us today, because one of the most important things you can do when you launch your site is remarket. It really is one of the most single underutilized e-commerce channels with the highest ROI. And so Tink's going to give us more information on that. So a little bit about myself. Before starting One-to-One eCommerce, I managed and ran an e-commerce company for 11 years, 10 years, and I grew that the online channel from 0 to 85 million. And this was back before the internet, was pretty established. So it was a little bit of a wild west out there. And it's actually started before there was even Google AdWords. Since starting One-to-One eCommerce, we are an Adobe Silver Solutions partner. We were named 2020 Emerging Partner of the Year. We've specialized only in Magento Commerce. It's the only platform we work on. And one of the things that and one of the aspects of One-to-One in terms of where we get our work is we see a lot of projects come to us midstream. What that means is that companies who have started their Magento project and either haven't been able to launch a site or they've launched a site and are having issues come to us. And what that gives us the benefit of not only looking at our own projects on a retrospect from new site launches, but also seeing what's happened with other companies and how they've managed the project and why there's why projects go off rails and how TCO gets blown up. So, common question, is that the TCO when you launch your site is nowhere what you expected it to be when you started the project. So what went wrong? As a Magento Commerce agency, one of the things we specialize in is rescues. And what that means is we have the ability to not only look at our own projects and when TCO doesn't end up where we had expected it to be, but also other projects and why that TCO didn't end up where it's supposed to be. So there's two insights that we've learned. So the first is generally when we get rescues, a lot of times the misalignment or the missed expectation comes from one of two things, either a lack of due diligence at the beginning of a project, meaning a company comes in and the scope could look something like, we're going to build a website for so-and-so, and it's going to have, these 5 pages on it, and customers are going to be able to come to the site and navigate for their product and so on and so forth. And it's kind of like this spoken out piece that's really not broken down into all the specific tasks. Additionally, you always commonly hear, we didn't know what we didn't know. They didn't ask us about this. And so there can be a lack of due diligence at the beginning of a project, and that's typically what we see when projects come into us. Poor communication as well, where there's a misalignment. So you may have people who on the client side are very creatively oriented and people on the agency side who are very logically oriented, meaning maybe the company was started by developers and so just right brain left brain type of issues. Nothing, they're just mismatch in terms of how they communicate and how they express themselves. Internally, biggest issues that we've seen and why projects, don't hit their TCO is the biggest one is really changing personnel or stakeholders in the middle of a project. So, new e-commerce director comes in the middle and then wants to, and that can really rock the boat. Bringing new stakeholders in, so going through the design process and bringing someone else who was supposed to be involved earlier in, or talking about integration and scoping and doing the integration, and then finally you bring in like the person who manages the ERP, and that should have been there a long time ago, or just changing direction. COVID's a great example of that. We have many clients who shifted direction mid-projects who were started on COVID, and then when COVID and the pandemic came, they shifted dramatically, and obviously that comes with a cost. So we talk about this abbreviation, this acronym TCO, which means total cost of ownership. And the common formula we typically hear is, we add the licensing cost plus the cost of development and any third parties, and that brings us to our TCO. And there's so much more to it. That's not a real accurate picture or understanding of what TCO is. So the above is true, but it doesn't really include maintenance costs, right? And maintenance cost is going to be directly correlated to the quality of the build. What does that mean? It means that specifically, with Magento or really any software, I can't really see this being, so different in any type of enterprise level integration or implementation. Was the build done correctly? Was the code quality good? Was it well documented? Was it done according to best practices? Is it scalable? Will it create problems later on? What tools is the company using to check performance and code quality during development and making sure that, that what they're doing is extensible? How much did you customize the system, and were you able to minimize as much as possible? Just on a side point, on open source, which is the freeware version of Magento, you're always going to have a much larger level of customization. And that's very logical because obviously, the licensed version of Magento comes with a lot of features. And when you go with the freeware version, you don't have those features, but you still want a lot of them. So you're going to customize, to try to get it to the point of functionality that you want. Inherently, you're going to have more maintenance costs on open source. In fact, we typically see that with our open source clients, their cost of maintenance is about 3 times as much as what a licensed customer will have. So when we talk about commerce, that's one aspect. When we talk about Magento Commerce, which is the licensed version, that's one way that Magento Commerce does lower your TCO. Another way that it lowers it is cloud. So on a basic level, the cloud solution is a very comprehensive solution, and they'll manage the whole performance and optimization of the site. But there's a huge aspect to cloud that really is it's not looked at very closely or not appreciated enough, which is there are very specific processes and workflows built into Magento Commerce Cloud that if you don't understand Magento or you're not doing it correctly, you will have a lot of problems. And if you're working with an agency and they're having a lot of cloud issues, chances are they're not doing Magento right. Part of the cloud's process, Magento Commerce Cloud's process, is that they have safeguards in place to ensure you can't corrupt the core code. And that's really a tremendous level of assurance to have that your investment will be protected. And you don't have that with the open source freeware version. Additionally, Magento offers a lot of training resources. So from in-depth courses to videos to manuals and forms, there's really nothing you can't learn to do on Magento. And so that brings me to the next point, where it's not just about lowering your total cost of ownership. It's not about necessarily saving money. It's also about making a return on your investment, right? Making revenue. And keep in mind, at its core, Magento is an e-commerce engine. Its whole purpose is to provide the most efficient and optimized shopping experience, to your customers, making sure that they come to the site, they find the right product, and they have a minimal amount of time, minimal friction in terms of completing that transaction. So you have to ask yourself, are you using Magento to the extent that you can? And there's a lot of functionality and a lot of features built into it. And so today, again, I mentioned earlier, we're going to speak to Max, who's one of our clients from a company called Norscot. And Max will talk about some of his experiences. So Max, when we came to Norscot, you were on SuiteCommerce. You're still using NetSuite ERP. What were some of the pain points that you were experiencing on SuiteCommerce that made you look for another e-commerce platform?
Sure. So as a company that works with a lot of other fairly large companies that are spinning up new initiatives, are coming up with new needs for us, being able to be really flexible and meet what they're asking for will often require that we create new sites, create all sorts of new extensions and new functionality for the website that we'd need to kind of let an idea fly and try it out and see if it works. If it doesn't, we're taking it down and doing something new. That is really cost and time prohibitive within NetSuite. Adding new sites is very expensive, whereas within Magento, it's quite simple and really not the kind of punch to the bottom line that we were experiencing in NetSuite SuiteCommerce.
When we talk about new sites, you're talking about client accounts, or you're talking about a new domain name totally?
Yes. So as we add new clients, we're adding new domains. But within those clients, sometimes they'll have new new microsites that they'll ask us to spin up for them, or we'll create some sites for child brand initiatives that kind of grow up to become big sites. So some of our larger sites started that way, and so as we're adding new clients and looking to the future, we want to be able to continue to do that and continue to expand our site footprint for our overall client ecosystem. So,
and Magento's
really
made it more efficient and more cost effective to
vastly, yes.
So for what kind of cost savings, like in terms of, is it just on the fact that you can launch a new site, or is Magento also giving you the ability to really be proactive in terms of the outreach?
Yeah, I mean, cost is like dollars and cents are important, but it's a huge time savings as far as the resources on our team, the amount of work that I have to put in and shepherd versus in the old system, having to hire very, very specific developers to do kind of fiddly work and then kind of be beholden to their timeline. We don't experience that anymore. That we're working with a great partner, and they're able to right there. They've also been able to teach us to fish really, and do a lot of that work within the system ourselves. Our Norscot, we run very efficiently, and it's just a couple of us that work on the websites, and we're able to hammer out new pages, new landing pages, bring up new categories very fast. If we need to launch a new product category, test it out, I can get that up in a day, get advertising pointed to that very swiftly, and have those results turned around right away. So
that's impressive. Time to market is tremendous, and the ability to test easily, is tremendous. I remember, from my client side days that was always a bottleneck. What advice would you give to someone who's comparing Magento to other platforms?
I really would say look at the total cost. Look at everything that's going to be involved. I would say look out over the course of a year. It's hard to, years like this, it's hard to make predictions. But in a standard year of e-commerce work, what are you expecting to do? Are you spinning up new initiatives, new promotions, any new campaigns? What's that going to cost you in time? Are you going to have to hire out for any development work? Are you going to be needing any specific media? Bring that all to the table, along with the cost of the e-commerce platform, along with the cost of the personnel that you're going to need to work on that, and how much you're going to have to draw in from the company to run those initiatives. When you add it all up, time is money, and I think you'll find that Magento compares favorably to just about anybody. We did that calculus about a year ago, and have not regretted that at all. It's been a very good move for us.
Yeah, that's I think you hit on a great point, which kind of brings me over to Tink. So just so by way of background, and a little bit of a lengthier just set intro on Tink, but when I was on the client side back in 2011, we had a pretty significant email list, probably well over 1 million people, and we were doing batch and blast. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what batch and blast means, it means where you're sending out the same email and the same messaging regardless of who's receiving it. So everybody get 10% off of HP this weekend. What if I don't have an HP printer? What do I care? It doesn't make a difference. What if someone never bought on a weekend and they always buy on a Wednesday? There's just so many aspects and of segmentation. And so back in 2011, customer segmentation was really just starting to really evolve. And the companies that were doing it back then were eDialog, Blue Hornet, Responses, Silver Carrot. And we had done an engagement actually with ExactTarget, who was later purchased by a different company, but that engagement cost 500. I think it was about $500,000. It was a little over $500,000. And the point of the engagement was to be able to tie in our order history, tie in customer records, and we had to have a dedicated ExactTarget programmer that we had to hire to be able to program ExactTarget to be able to do anything. And then about a year ago, maybe it was a little more, 2 years ago, I think, we had connected with dotdigital. They wanted to show us some new tools that they built out. And I got to tell you, I almost fell off my chair. They built out what I had spent over $500,000, 10 years ago. They built out into their basic core offering to do without any programming. It's all drag and drop. It's this workflow. The email marketing, sending emails to your own customer base, is the highest ROI channel you will have. You've already paid to get these customers. You already know everything about them. Not targeting them and not leveraging that is just leaving so much money on the table. And Tink is going to talk to you about dotdigital and how they evolved. Sorry, Tink, for the long intro. So can you tell us about dotdigital? Because I'm so excited, and you can obviously tell I'm a huge fan.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just as a way, a bit of intro to us, then, that we are an omni-channel marketing automation platform. We've been around for 20 years. We started in the UK and came to the US about 10 years ago. Personally, I've been a thought leader in around the world of various trade bodies. I've sat on, as an elected member of the Direct Marketing Association, both in the UK and in the US. We've got 14 offices globally now. You can find us listed on the London Stock Exchange. We're a public company. But probably, as you say, most importantly for this audience, we are an Adobe Premier partner. And as part of that, our technology is core bundled into Magento 2, meaning we're already integrated, we're primed, we're tested and ready to go. And maybe just a little bit on that, following on from what you were saying there in your previous experience, the fact that we are core bundled into Magento is quite rare. I don't think, not that many people know that. You can be a Premier partner and not be core bundled. But we're one of only a handful of technologies that have been trusted enough to be bundled into that core code. And we're the only marketing automation platform to actually be core bundled.
Just for anyone listening, by the way.
Go ahead.
Just for anyone listening, core bundle means that there's no real no higher level of integration needed. Once you get on Magento, you can fully utilize, all of dotdigital's inherent workflows. So core bundle is a very, very it's a strong position to be in, to be able to start leveraging and monetizing your site right away.
Yeah, that's exactly right. For anyone that's got Magento 2.2 and above, they already have our platform. It is within the Magento code base. All we need to do is flick the switch and turn it on. It's there, it's ready to go, and there's no integration to do. And this has only actually been made possible after literally thousands of hours of QA with the development team at our end, working on our integration, also working very closely with the Magento team at their end. And this is something we do on an ongoing basis. There's maintenance going on in the background. We update our integration when new features become available in Magento, like the new B2B stuff, for example. So we go through the QA process again as part of our release, and then we go through it again with all the Magento release. And that obviously has a big impact on the total cost of ownership, because the setup is greatly reduced and it's pretty much none. Also means that a lot of the strategy and the thinking has already been done. There's certain segmentations and automations that all merchants should do. And the work for all the data flow has been done already as part of that core bundled integration. So as soon as we turn it on, the data flows from one system into the other system seamlessly, and we can set up and get ready to go. So for us, it's all about getting merchants to use the platform and get it to use it as soon as possible, because it will be making money for them and hopefully paying for all of those build costs. And equally, if you don't have Magento 2.2.2 and above, we do have an integration you can install into all other versions of Magento as well. So there's no reason whilst you're doing a build, you can't be getting going already. When
should a merchant start looking at integrating or getting ready for the email marketing? Should they wait till their site's live? Just from my own point, I always dislike the term minimal viable product, MVP.
That's exactly right. Thanks for bringing that up. I mean, what frustrates me just on the email side is it gets left to the last minute. It's sort of a bit of an afterthought. So we go through our vendor selection, our agency selection to build, and then there's this mad rush to go live. And we haven't really reviewed the marketing side of things. Or maybe we just carry on using what we were doing, and we could be batching and blasting still, and what have you. And in that mad rush that then happens if we do switch over, things can go wrong. The design of the templates could be hurried. They're not properly mobile optimized, and what have you. But also, I think for a lot of people, they haven't used some of these other channels before. So they've not even sat there and contemplated, what am I doing benefiting me in marketing terms, in terms of my transactional email, my SMS, my SMS transactional messages. Have I got a web app? Am I using push notifications there? WhatsApp is now allowing businesses to use messages as well, along with Facebook. So there's lots of other touch points that the merchant's customers would like to talk to them through, even live chat, for example. That's another one of our channels. The merchant's not in charge these days of the channel that the customer wants to talk to them in and receive information from. So if you're not looking at those as part of your strategy, then you are going to be missing out and leaving dollars on the table. And so it isn't purely about email these days. I still think people make the switch or go live and they do that wrong and they fall back into, just as you say, batching and blasting. But get that right, then there's a lot of work to be done across all those other channels as well.
I've always told clients, a site on staging doesn't make you any money. A site that's live makes you money. So for me, it's all about a maximum ROI model. The sooner you're live, the sooner you're making money. So when does a merchant come to dotdigital and say, hey, we're ready to start doing the email segmentation? And then you answer that.
I wasn't sure if you wanted me to answer.
Okay. Are there certain size merchants that will benefit from dotdigital services more than others? What if someone only has 1,500 people on a list, or a B2B list of a couple of thousand people, and they're doing primarily B2B,
Yeah, we can literally handle merchants of any size. In fact, that exact question came up when we first started talking to Magento about their Premier Partner program way back in the day, I think 5 or 6 years ago now. It was our ability to cope with the small end of SME clients right the way through to the corporate clients, and be able to do that for both B2B and B2C. So we covered everyone, and there's no reason, if you have got a small list, that we shouldn't be working that and getting engagements and understanding customer profiles, looking at recency, frequency, and monetary values. So we can then look at product recommendations and things like that to send in emails, because it would be useful for later down the line. And then obviously part of what we do as well is that we will work with the customer. We very much believe in the message of platform and people. So you'll have a dedicated customer success manager who will walk you through all of the tools that we offer. And some of those tools are there to help you build your lists. So you get further subscribers, you can use surveys and forms, spin up landing pages, have competitions, and get people to enter, and so on and so forth. And on the B2B side, naturally the lists aren't so big, but the rewards are far greater. So you should be doing it anyway. So I think
100%.
if someone's got a list, let's just make it bigger, and let's make that work really well and put a strategy together about how we can then become much more targeted and less batch and blast, and then look at the other opportunities that may exist in the other channels.
I really appreciate that, Tink. That's a lot of great information, and we're always advocating for people to utilize that native dotdigital bundled integration. So I think that covers a lot of the TCO. So to wrap up, basically, ways to minimize your TCO are to really not just account for the licensing and estimated development, but really account for what your maintenance is going to be. Ensure that ensure that you have guidelines in place that you're not going to be faced with surprise maintenance costs and rescues and things like that. And again, focus. The most important thing is focus on you're paying for a Magento Commerce license. There's so many features that are in there. Use them. really use them. They're all there to help you make money and save money. And those are the two main considerations you want to think about anytime you're looking to do anything. How's it going to save me, or what's it going to make me? And so Magento is, literally built to answer those questions and to help you. I don't have any other questions for you guys. You were great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben.